Couldn't wait. I had to move the camera into this room. The sound's got to be 10 times better. I haven't heard it yet, but I will. But I lost almost half a day yesterday driving to go find interior, some boards that I want to find somewhere, a scrapyard or reuse a place to put in here, and they didn't have nothing. But I do have a pile of old fence rails out there that are all gray and weathered, and I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a bunch of them, put them in the driveway and pressure wash them off, see what kind of finish I got, and blast them in here and get it done. But anyway, once I got the insulation up in here, just the feeling and blasting out the background sound and the echo is gone, I'm certain. I'm going to record this video in the room prematurely before it's done. So maybe I'll throw down some video for you guys to watch while I'm doing this, alright? Now, who do we got? Who do we got? Who do we got? We got lots. We got lots. Alright, this is titled, So Much to Cover with You. Mark this as read. Since you got back from Southeast Asia, you hit some really good material, and you have a lot of questions and your own responses. Owlman, the Arizona group, and many others. I have so much to say about these great bits of information that is solidly based. But like you, I need time for review, analysis, and response. I'm not prepared to address it all, but a few times that are easy. Like you, I'm very busy right now and finishing up my place in New Mexico. A stark contrast from my long life in Washington State. First, let's start with the emails from today and the White Horse Mountain Hermit near Darrington. My first Sabbath outings were in those mountains. I did it to get boots on the ground, personal verification. I also have some close friends up there, good people, who live right on the side of the mountain. Every time I've gone up there, I've been near the Sabbath without fail. I know that area well. It's rough territory, and you better not be weak-minded up there. I also know that Dogman hybrids are in that area. So let's talk about Dogman. I don't know if you read the most recent email I sent you. It was for you only. You and I would have to spend hours together for me to convey the history that includes the Sabbath. The primary history mainly is concerned with the Nephilim and the animal hybrids. I do not put Sabbath in the same realm necessarily as the Nephilim or the hybrid animals. Dogman is but one of 200 original hybrid bipedal animal species. Most animal hybrid types have died off, but a few remain. The Dogman is the most prominent. None of these animal hybrids resulted from women lying with animals. That's just pure horsey shit. There was an advanced race of people here who were not from here, and they left the record indicating what happened. There were genetic labs here, and the Nephilim and Dogman were part of that era of corruption of the flesh here. Genetic anomalies. It's written. Human women did not lie with the fallen angels, but rather lent human mitochondrial DNA for their genetic work. Human women could not give birth to or carry to term their giant offspring. That history is not really ambiguous. It just has been twisted around, manipulated, and lied about. Many highly qualified researchers are treating this history now and are giving it the exposure it deserves. When the guy fishing for northern pike saw the portal and the large creature, understand this relates directly to a concept that you have not fully captured yet. Portals happen and have been seen and reported for a very long time. Hybrids like Dogman have been around for at least 10,000 years and possibly 20. What is different is that now so many people are encountering animal hybrids. It is unnaturally high, the number of encounters relative to 100 years ago. Can't interrupt for 1 second, but doesn't that have something to do with the internet, don't you think? I mean, 100 years ago, how were communities able to communicate with each other? And what kind of confidence would a rural community 100 years ago have to share with another member of their tiny community that they saw a human body with a dog's head on it, terrorizing the shit out of them? So that's one area where I would think, I'm not certain of that myself yet. I'm soaking it up. But I firmly believe the amount of sightings right now is because we can openly communicate with each other. Maybe, possibly. Anyway, The read I have is that it isn't just a different realm or dimension these creatures are popping in and out of. There are other sources for the hybrids like Dogman and even the reptilians. Abductions have been going on in the world for genetic manipulation. This is not lore. It is well documented UFO activity. It is probable that others are here restarting now what took place 10 to 20,000 years ago regarding animal hybrid creations. And it is also possible that they make their own version of Sabe. We run into these hybrids too often these days. Consider the possibility that our governments are to a degree working in tandem with some of these non-terrestrial groups. Okay, I'm going to add in a little bit more here. So currently with the government, I was somewhat made aware the other day from a source that there isn't not only the dark ops, the black ops, there is even the darker black ops, even more unknown than the black ops, if those are the correct terms. I hope you guys are picking up what I'm putting down. But from what we are seeing today, the people who are in just the simple government, the show that we get to watch daily, let's face it, those people are about as smart as pickles. There's no other way to describe them. Dumb as frickin' hammers. So I do believe that myself, if there is some kind of not conspiracy, but if I feel if there's something's going on with, quote, government, end quote, it's not the individuals we see on mainstream, right? It's got to be the dark, blackened out groups who, what they say, the president doesn't even have access to. Is all I'm adding in there as a possibility. Sorry. Consider the possibility that our governments are to a degree working in tandem with some of these non-terrestrial groups. This is conjecture, but it is highly weighted conjecture. In 2003, the Kandahar giant was captured by the U.S. Fact. I have reports of professors who have talked to students about being involved in programs post-2003 where they said they had the perfect genetic blend to create so many different hybrids, like animals. If it ever came up as a question, these professors said they would deny it. Who gave these genetic researchers the information to manipulate genetic material completely foreign, not terrestrial, to current genetic research? Should take decades to understand it. It didn't. So, it could well be there are two sources for the increased numbers of hybrids. Those who are here from somewhere else doing genetic creation, and us under the guidance using the completely unfamiliar genetics from the Kandahar giant as the source material. Now, one big question directly relating to that would be why? Why are these individuals so focused on creating such frickin' things, and why aren't these people, these entities, just rocking this lifetime out? Do you know what I mean? I just don't understand the drive to do such things, to put so much of your time of life towards something like this instead of focusing on, I don't know, somewhere absolutely drop dead gorgeous and healthy and happy place to be and experience and go fishing, camping, go whatever. Do you know what I mean? I mean, there's so much more beautiful, wonderful things to experience and spend time of life doing than this. So my big question is, what is the driving force behind this? Why? Why do this? Do you know what I mean? Why do this? I don't understand that part. Life is such a hoot, can be. A lot of people choose not to enjoy it. I don't get it. There is always a core population from the past, but it is unlikely that we would be having so many encounters unless the population exploded. That's unlikely. We cannot deny that something has changed fundamentally. Look at the state of the human race right now. Chaos, manipulation, and propaganda like never before. Something shifted. I think it's the knowledge access that general population has access to now. I think that's what's going on, and the evil, dirty sons of bitches are panicking, and they're creating chaos because, let's face it, what else do you have left in your deck of cards once it starts to fall down? Maybe. What is the purpose of these hybrid creations? All we have to do is look at history to answer that. The Nephilim were destroying the human race. As if that wasn't enough, then they created animal hybrids, and many of them were a menace to humans as well. Sabe was likely not a part of that, but I hold my final judgment on that until I know. We cannot assume what we see today only resulted from the past before the floods, that we see remnants only from that era. If it was done once, it can certainly happen again. I have sources coming out and telling me their experiences that indicate this is happening. Do I deny them? I learned a very long time ago, the best data you can study are the reports from individuals who stumbled into UFO or whatever and as you know it, wasn't something that could be dealt with given human societies and the lies and narratives regarding our history. You're an outcast. The material these people give us is honest 99% of the time, and you know when it is not. I absolutely agree. But I also learned a very long time ago that if you do not apply history to the matter, you cannot understand it for its agenda, intent, or context. History matters here more than most Sasquatch or UFO researchers would ever admit. No doubt. They don't see the purpose, they don't apply it, and they never ever learn. It has the answers. I've seen it over and over. I don't get excited anymore. Yeah, just like I said from the very beginning, for me personally, before I came out publicly, was watching the shit show of so many people doing the exact same thing. Chasing their tail, going in a circle, mimicking each other, and not going anywhere. You know what I mean? A lot of people say, I know you don't like researchers. I've never said I don't like researchers, ever. I said I have said the majority of them frustrate the shit out of me because as I'm sitting back silent knowing what I knew then, it is just an embarrassing shit show. Like, how many times can these guys focus on the same things, keep focusing on the same thing, keep doing the same thing, keep mimicking others doing the same thing, and then their time of life is up and they die doing the same shit and they didn't get ahead. I'll bite my lip there. I understand why UFO have involved themselves in our affairs, and most urgently with regard to our global nuclear weapons programs and policies. Our political machinations, our hurried efforts to make the nuclear weapons more effective in competition with each other. They intervened on tens of thousands of occasions, often physically, as in direct intervention. That was my area of study and analysis for well over a decade. I used history and it was my guide. That is how I learned how to study these kinds of topics. I had verifications so often that I could predict what would happen next in real time. Wow, that's a lot of study time, man. I was able to use the methods when 50 to 100 missiles were shot down at Warren Air Force Base. Missile field spans multiple states. In 2010, I know why that intervention happened. It was not a fluke, nor were any of the other interventions. We either never hear about them, or we get lies. I have dug to the bottom of the pit. Keep your mind open. Right on, man. Mr. Robert Duval, I appreciate you. Please email back again. And yeah, I've heard I had a direct line of that incident as well from a nuclear scientist. Told me the same thing. There's also lights above there, was there not? There was lights seen above there, and they shut them right down. Absolutely took control of the nuclear items away from the tech, the controllers down below, the humans down below. Pretty crazy. I wonder if, one day, maybe, possibly, we could, in a way, lose the UFO label. You know what I mean? Like, by now, there's got to be a name. You know what I mean? Like, it's just saying, well, they're UFOs. They're UFOs. UFOs saw UFO, UFOs sky, UFOs did this, UFOs taking the people. All right, let's put a name to these pricks, right? You know what I mean? There's got to be a name for them by now. A description, a name. Who are they, where they come from? Somebody knows that without a doubt. Do I think our public government characters know? Not a chance. They're too stupid. There is some very strong, powerful groups manipulating every single thing about our lifetime right now, without a doubt. And they're as well manipulating those stooges that they stand up in front of cameras and call the leaders of the so-called free world, which it is not, but Anyway, I'm babbling. Fired right up with a cup of coffees. Yeah, very interesting. Very, very interesting. And I hope a lot of people out here listening are soaking it all up, applying it to what they're learning and making sense and getting ready to report back with what they are finding out. It's exciting times. It's confusing times, but you got to admit it is exciting times too, especially for all of us to be able to communicate like this or bring all this shit forward and treat it the way it should be treated as valuable information to us. Okay, looking forward to hearing from you again, man, alright? Now, this is titled The Little People, question mark, from Metairie, L.A. Metairie, M-E-T-A-R-I-E, capital L-A. Steve, I think they must be everywhere, question mark. When I was 18, my buddy and I did security at a couple of new tall buildings just built in a wooded area. We would go and visit each other on our off days. One night I was walking with him on his final rounds of the shift. We had to walk through all the office spaces to make sure the building was empty. As we passed between two bullpens, there was a copy room with a water cooler, etc. He made a motion to me he was thirsty, so we spun around real fast, as young men do. We froze in place because what we saw was a little man scooting past as we passed. He was caught by surprise and looked up at us. He looked mortified that we had seen him. He turned his head and zipped out of sight with almost magical speed. It scared the living shit out of us. We ran right out of the building without finishing his checkout procedure. We got in his car that faced the building. These offices, outer wall was all glass that had blinds that were closed. Steve, as we backed out, I saw the blinds bend like when you peek out. As we peeled out of the lot, he asked, "What the F was that?" I responded, "Do not say another word." I got paper and pen out of the glove box and wrote down what I saw. When I was finished, I told him, "Okay, tell me exactly what you saw." And it was the very same as I had written down. And this is the description as we both saw it. Quote, "A little elf-like man with pointed hat and shoes and the red and white striped stockings, just like in the fairy tales. His face seemed pointy, slash-like, especially his nose. I'll never forget the look on his face." Oh shit, they turned around. At least that is what I interpreted from his look. I'll gladly take a lie detector, slash or a truth drug or whatever. This is the God's honest truth, I so swear. I say this because it was not me saying it. I say this because if it was not me saying it, don't know if I would believe it. But it did. Freely use my name, I'm 60 years young and give no F's. Bob Roussel. R-O-U-S-S-E-L-L. Okay, Bob. You know as well as I do. The majority of the people hearing the description are going to go, "What were you guys doing sharing a crack pipe at work every day, right?" But we weren't there. I don't know what you saw. I wasn't there, which completely eliminates me from being able to say that you didn't see that. So, let's see who else is possibly going to knee-jerk right in. You're relieved in a way that somebody finally did it first, and they're going to write in their experience. Maybe, possibly, and we'll see, right? It's a crazy thing to see, man. Too bad you couldn't have caught that little bastard. Had a little conversation with him. That would scare the shit out of anybody, right? No matter how harmless, whatever, how big, you didn't say how tall it was, let's say it was 10 inches. I mean, that would look harmless, but it would still scare the shit out of us, right? Because it's absolutely not supposed to exist, absolutely wrong, and not what we were taught. But we're not taught much, really, now, right? When you think about it, you think about the thousands of emails we've received here and what people have to share with us. I think we can come to the conclusion right now that we haven't really been taught very much, have we? Not the important shit, anyway. My first Sasquatch experience. Dear Steve, feel free to share my name, etc. Alright, Lucy Cohen. Gotcha. My name is Lucy, I'm 22 years old, and I guess I can say I've had my first Sasquatch experience. I came from Scotland, and I live in the Loch Lomond area. Today, Monday, February 27th, I decided to take my 2-year-old German Shepherd, Banquo, 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 for a nice long walk at Balloch Park. This is the first time I'd taken him here without anyone else, just me and my dog. I took him out to a nice foresty area where not many people tend to go. Sometimes the occasional dog walker or a jogger, but that's pretty much it. So it's nice and quiet to work on his off-lead obedience. He was the goodest boy. About an hour into our walk, I clipped him back up and we decided to re-emerge to the main path, heading toward the loch. There is a secondary dirt path that leads to another wooded area that we were going to head up. I believe it's called Winnie Hill. Before we even got to the dirt path, there was this loud honk slash screech slash howl slash whoop that repeated for around 30 seconds. At first I tried to rationalize what it could be, as though I've always been a firm believer in Sasquatch. I didn't want to jump to conclusion, but judging by the sheer volume and the distance the sound came from, I could only come to the conclusion that it was perhaps a juvenile Sasquatch, as it sounded similar to some of the sounds sent in by other viewers. During this vocalization, Banquo had stopped dead in his tracks. Once it had ended, I prompted my dog to take lead on direction, and he pulled me along, sprinting the opposite direction back up the hill towards my car. He would not have done that if he didn't have a reason to. I even had to stop and sit down at a bench to catch my breath, as we had ran back up the hill so quickly. It wasn't until I'd begun the drive home that I realized I was shaking all over, which is peculiar, as I didn't have any sort of feeling of fear or dread at the time, and I have pretty much been playing that moment over in my head since I got home. Thank you for reading this, Steve. I appreciate everything you do on this channel, and as do many others. Thanks, Lucy Cohen. P.S. I attached a picture of my gorgeous boy taken about 5 minutes after the event. It's a healthy looking dog. Thanks for the email. And again, we got somebody emailing in because of the impact from the sound they heard. Right? I think we all know that the sound has got to be absolutely ridiculous, right? Okay, here's another one titled Dogman. Steve, hello, I'm back again. In case your readers don't recognize my previous email, I'm a recently retired police officer out of the Los Angeles Police Department with 25 years of experience. My wife, daughter, and I witnessed a Sasquatch in Sedona, Arizona on Highway 89A northbound. This is my first experience with a Dogman. In April 22, my wife, daughter, and I were traveling on Route 66, passing through Foyle, Oklahoma. It's just outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma. We're traveling along Route 66 next to the train tracks, not too far from the Andy Payne Monument, between the hours of 2200 hours and 0000 hours. While traveling along Route 66, I witnessed a Dogman. The weird thing about the sighting is that the Dogman was on the other side of the train tracks. Train tracks usually are on an elevated surface for the train, which is anywhere from 3 to 4 feet or more depending on the surface. The Dogman was on all fours, head bobbing and swinging. The level at which you could see the eyes on the creature on all fours was above the elevated tracks. Our headlights were not even on the creature. As we passed the creature, its eyes were lit up yellow. I actually had a visual of the creature, and all I could think about were its damned eyes. No light or nothing made those eyes light up. That height at which I saw the eyes would have put that creature above normal human height if it were to go up on 2 legs. This is our second experience with cryptids in general, and it's true, once you experience it, it's a deep, dark rabbit hole you never climb out of. Unless you pretend it didn't happen. There's an option there, isn't there? I did some research on wolves in Oklahoma. The gray and red wolf are the only 2 wolf species native to Oklahoma. However, they were exterminated by humans about 50 years ago. The only surviving wolves are currently in breeding facilities all over the United States. In case people don't know, Oklahoma has a long and extensive history with Dogman/Sasquatch. Stay strong, Don Taylor, LAPD, retired. There you go, there's another Dogman sighting. And another and another and another. Am I going to see one? I hope not. I don't really want to see one. I'd rather hear about them through text. Maybe. If dogmen are fond of gray wolves, they're not going to be too fond of me. Not with my past. Excuse me. But anyway, I don't know. Do I got time to do another one? I got stuff I got to get going on. What do we got? I got a shorter one. There's a lot of big ones in here, a lot of books, which is fine. I don't mind those at all. It's just I can't crack a book open at the end. What's this one? This one won't take long. This one's titled Bigfoot and Yeti. Steve, your channels helped me with more information than I managed to string together. I've been chasing stories of Yeti ever since the movie The Abominable Snowman came out in the 50s. I'm now 79 years young. I looked everywhere for information back then, and it was hard to come by. And some of it was from a questionable source. My grandfather was half Irish and half Mingo. Mangos were a clan of Iraqi. They were exiled because it was taught that they were disloyal to the nation. He would tell me he was going to give me to the boogeyman. One day I saw the garbage men working, and I asked my grandfather if they were the boogeymen. And he told me they weren't, but that the boogeyman lived in the woods and would take little boys that were caught in the woods after dark. My wife, who was a retired policewoman and 9/11 operator, told me about a run-in with a skunk ape she had while camping in Florida. She said it was very scary, but no harm came from it. The people she was camping with did not believe her until the next morning when they saw the scrape marks on top of her tent. We were both from southwest Pennsylvania. I took her to a park that she had never been to. We got there after the official closing for the day. It was in the Laurel Highlands and was called Fort Necessity, a place where George Washington was forced to fight during the French and Indian War. We were walking through the woods on a path that leads to the old fort. The path was only 200 yards long. We were about halfway to the fort when we started hearing tree knocks about 200 or 300 yards to the south of us. By now we were aware of tree knocks and had to decide whether to go on to the fort or leave the woods. We went on to the fort that was out of the woods. The knocks only lasted for about 2 or 3 minutes. 2 or 3 minutes, that's quite a long time actually. After we left the fort and walked back through the woods, we didn't hear any more knocks. That's the end of the email. Okay, man, thanks a lot, Walter. Appreciate you, man. And I wonder if you might maybe get your wife, might be interested in sending us a description of what happened, what she saw with the skunk ape. A lot of people will probably be interested. Florida. It's almost like anybody who's been to Florida has had a run into the skunk ape now by the number of encounters that have been emailed in. Holy cow, that place is popular for these sightings. I'll tell you what, I was down there one time with some popular hunters that a lot of people know from television. Some guys who are sponsored by Realtree, possibly one of the top turkey hunters in the United States. I was filming with him. He was hunting and a couple other guys, and I did not stop thinking about Sasquatch while I was in those woods in Florida. I'll tell you what, man, going through into those big ass jungles of foreign tree species to me. They come out in little pastures and stuff, and cattle running around. You definitely see something running around there for sure. And we drove from, I flew into Florida, and we drove from there back to Alabama, so I got to see a lot of the country along the highways too. But anyway, one more quick mention. So yesterday I went out to do things. I drove to the next town over, and I had on my Club No Return hoodie. Anyway, and sure enough, coincidentally, these guys knew who I was. I know who they are, and they're in a popular store. And the one guy told me a story where he has seen he saw a Sasquatch, and I think they had his buddy, 3 children with them, and that was approximately about maybe 1 mile behind the house here along the Stamp River. Saw the timber, and what he described was this being was about broad daylight, probably like 20 feet from him or something. And he said it basically may as well have just described it as vanished right there. It was right there in front of him, whether it took a step or whatever it did, in the timber, boom, gone. Told me about that one. And then he also told me of another guy he knows who was camped to hunt on the base of Mount Aerosmith. And said that basically the camper he was in, or vehicle, whatever he was in, was being shifted and one corner, one end was being lifted off the ground and put back on the ground. Scared the living shit out of him. And sure enough, in the morning, in the snow, there was tracks all around. Large, barefoot tracks all around. Told me that yesterday. And then the other young fellow that works in there, and he fishes a lot of the same places I fish, and he told me, and he didn't want to say it too loud, but he said he had his first Sasquatch experience in December, just up the road here. Well, not just up the road, but I don't know, 15-minute drive away. And it was at Cameron Lake. And him and his buddy, I think, were fishing. It was right at last light, and they could hear these loud, ridiculously loud whoops coming down off of the top ridge across from the highway above Cameron Lake. And that place has been an absolute ridiculous hotbed for sightings. Also had a man email me, him and his son were hunting up there, and they had boulders, I think he said the size of basketballs, being winged at them in the timber, and they got the hell out of there. What else around there? The Beaufort Range Mountains are right there. Tons of sightings all along them. Those things go straight through to Comox Lake, I think it is. Comox Lake's is where they end, where there's tons of sightings. Dr. John Bendernagel ran around there a lot investigating. Actually, when I met up with John Bendernagel, he told me he was on the previous day he had gone to Port Alberni, which is here, to meet some loggers at a McDonald's because they wanted to share with him what they saw, but on no circumstances was he allowed to share their names. Anyway, there's my little spiel. Yeah, Cameron Lake. It's almost tempting if someone is interested to. You should get a audio recorder and go there at nighttime and hang it up. Leave it on record. If one of those ones that record all night long, chances of getting something on there are pretty high around that lake. Why? Don't know. Haven't a clue. And then on the way there, when you get past Cameron Lake, the highway drops down heading east, and it goes through the Cathedral Grove, I think it's called, where all the first growth mature timber is still there. Massive, massive cedar trees, fir trees, hemlock, and there has been dozens of sightings of these beings crossing that highway right there at nighttime too. Anyway, there you go. I got to get moving. I got the boat mover coming tomorrow. I have to fix these bilge pumps now, throw all the gear in, blah blah blah, and it's going in the water tomorrow, and that's it. It'll be in the water till the fall. And yes, I'm going to guide for salmon and halibut for July and August, maybe some in June. So there you go, you guys. If you want to do that, you can email me at bookit@howtohunt.com. I think that's what it was. Book it. I think you made that one. Bookit@howtohunt.com. If I'm incorrect, I'll chop this out of the video. So if I leave this in the video, that's where you can get that going. I know there's a lot of people interested last year, but we didn't give you too much heads up. So I'm doing it. I will guide parts of June, July, and August, and that's it. All right? All right, here we go. Now, share my story at howtohunt.com is where you can get the knowledge out to the people, where we are all one.